Welcome to the Circuit of Success Podcast.
The Circuit of Success Podcast.
With your host,
Brett
Gilliland.
Brett Gilliland, Visionary Wealth Advisory.
the Circuit of Success Podcast. Let's start the show.
Welcome to the Circuit of Success. I'm your host, Brett Gilliland. Today I've got John Diggs with me. John, how we doing?
John is doing fantabulous today. Thank you so much for having me, man. It's a pleasure being here, Brett. This is awesome.
Absolutely. Where are you calling in from? I forgot to ask that before we started recording.
Yeah, I'm actually in Phoenix, Arizona right now. I've been out here for 5 years. Born and raised in LA, though.
So there you go.
Los Angeles.
You can have short sleeves on where you're at. I got to wear this vest and a long sleeve shirt. It's getting cold here in St. Louis, so that's all right. It's December. What else can I expect? Well, good,
Exactly.
man. Well, so thanks so much for being with me. Like you said, John Diggs is the name. He's a certified love life coach and mind mapping mentor. Once a standout college football player at Washington State and went on to play in the NFL and the CFL, and reconstructive knee surgery. Had some better ideas for you than playing any more football, didn't it?
That's for sure, man. That's for
Yeah.
sure. Could have went back to go play, but the doctor said if I twisted it or took another shot in it, I would walk with a cane for the rest of my life. So took that as a hint and a half to move on.
That's right. Well, and then got into the business world, and I know we're going to talk about mind mapping today and stuff like that. But before we do that, if you can, John, just kind of what's made you the man you are today, to get to the level you've gotten to in business and on the football field. Share some of that backstory if you can.
Oh, yeah, great. Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, I was born and raised in LA, and I got blessed and lucky, I'd like to say, to earn a scholarship to Washington State University. Go Cougs. And from there, I went on and played several years of professional football until, like we mentioned, the reconstruction of the right knee, which began my mortgage career, and did everything in the mortgage industry in Southern California. Opened up my own company in 2003. Built a very powerful mortgage brokerage there, living the millionaire lifestyle, all the way until the mortgage meltdown recession, which stripped and melted my entire life away. Lost career, lifestyle, family, my wife, lost everything. And I was basically forced to move back to my mother's house, having nowhere to turn. Which began also, this is the part where my TEDx talk, I did a TEDx talk in January, and I kind of start my TEDx talk from this point in my life, because when I moved back to my mom's, all I took with me was this big ass box, literally a huge box full of motivational CDs, tapes, DVDs, notebooks, things of Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy, Les Brown, all of the things that I've accumulated over the years to build my life. I know I had to go back into that box to rebuild my life, at that point. But in that box, there was one book called the Mind Mapping book. And I never read it. I think one of my colleagues may have given it to me at some time. And for some reason, it resonated with me. And I basically read that and decided to mind map everything that was in that big ass box. It took me 3 months to mind map all of that stuff. And that was my first real introduction to the power of mind mapping, because in that process, I started realizing that a lot of the information within the book was resonating much deeper than the normal underlining or highlighting of the book. Going through that and hunting for keywords and phrases to add to the map was just really causing information to really resonate deeper. From there, I started to realize that, I do have the power to change my life. I do have the power to, to make decisions, to live the life of my dreams. So, but in that process, I realized, Brett, that it was important for me to first get clear on who I am. Who am I? What's most important to me in my life, which began the birth or the beginning of what I call the I am mind map, which is just key components of who I am in the world as it relates to health, wealth, success, and happiness. Spent another 3 months of really just mentally grappling with what that really means to me as far as healthy, wealthy, successful, and happy, and transformed my life quickly. And, I think, about 2 months after that process, so 8 months after moving into my mother's house, actually landed a six-figure mortgage consulting software development gig, which I've been doing for the last 13, 14 years now, where I've built one of the top mortgage software development companies in the country. One of the top developers in that came some tech dude out of, out of nowhere. and been doing that ever since. And I know that a lot of the success and growth has been by way of mind mapping. But when COVID hit and quarantine, and we were, basically forced
Crazy.
to stay inside, decided to pivot and start writing books and starting going towards my passion of just helping others live better lives. And I've been writing books. I got 6 books out now that are all geared towards showing people various ways they can mind map to live their best lives. And now this year has been really my year of, like, as I say, letting go of the side of the pool. I'm no longer taking any mortgage software clients, and this is just my thing of where I really want to impact lives around the world with the power of mind mapping. It's truly powerful.
Yeah. So let's do this. I'm going to pull a piece of paper up here out of my coaching booklet. So we own a wealth management firm, Visionary Wealth Advisors, as you know, but I also do coaching for people as well. And I use this mind map, and I want to see if this is something that, if we can define what mind mapping is, right? Because I think a lot of people, myself included, I don't know if I even have the right name for it, if you will. But can you see that on the screen there?
I do not. Are you sharing something? I just
I'm
see
sharing something. Yeah, it should show up there shortly. But I've got this mind map on here, and hopefully it'll show up on your side there quickly. But I basically have this future greater than your past in the middle. That's our mission. That's what's our purpose. That's what we're here for, right? Is to help people achieve a future greater than yourself. And with that, I've got in a circle around it, I've got values and mission, your vision, a planner, like a journal, your Focus 90, which I'll get into later, strategic think time, Sunday planning, and retreat. I think it's important to go out on a retreat on your own. So that's my quote unquote map, right? And it says at the bottom, clarity precedes mastery. And so with that, that's my mind map. That's the things that I think we've got to do to be successful. So when you hear that, is that what you're calling mind mapping, or can you define what mind mapping is?
Right. Well, mind mapping in short is a visual information management tool. Basically, it takes anything that a person has to consider, think about, contemplate, plan, whether that's making a decision, problem solving, dealing with things in your past you're trying to get complete with, goal setting in the future, anything you got to think about. Mind mapping will allow you to take that information and put it in a visual form. Sounds like what you did, with the central theme in the middle, and subtopics around the central theme, all connecting, from the middle theme, to where now you can start to really brainstorm each one of those subtopics. And if you do that effectively, you can really step back and look at that entire map and connect dots. You can actually see strategies. You can see a greater perspective of whatever it is you're trying to think about, to make a more informed decision, to make, to know how to really address things, because now you're seeing the totality of what you're thinking about versus trying to look at it while it's just stuck in your head, and it's really hard to see all various perspectives. And that's where mind mapping, I find, has been most useful, is giving people a 10,000 foot view of whatever they're trying to think about, kind of deal.
I think getting it on paper, there's so much that goes on between these two ears, isn't it? The mind is a very powerful place and a very dangerous place all at the same time. And so, so I couldn't agree more. Getting it out there, getting it on paper, and then creating a plan behind it. So, there's mind mapping, and then you talk about Mappineering, right? So Mappineering. What's the difference between Mappineering and mind map?
There's a big distinction. Well, when people hear the mind mapping, and it's relatively still unknown, by the majority of people, they hear it but don't really understand mind mapping. But those that do around the world, they primarily use mind mapping for project management, note taking, brainstorming, kind of like activities. But from what I found over the last 7-8 years of talking to mind mappers around the world, I'm the only one that's really promoting it, teaching it, and coaching it as a personal development tool, where, people can really get clear on their goals and daily activities, mind mapping, using it more as a personal tool versus more that corporate structure that is known. So I decided to create, or come up with Mappineering to show a distinction between how most people know it and how I'm using it more as a, like I said, just a optimal living, peak performance kind of aid, if you will. That's why I call it Mappineering. And on my website, my tagline is, engineering beautiful mind maps to love life more. That's essentially what
Awesome.
Mappineering
Yeah.
is.
So what's that
Yeah.
process for you? Is that sitting down with a notebook? I mean, how do you do your Mappineering to get a mind map going for people to help them get to the next level?
Well, I use this software, this online platform called MindMeister. It's a company out of Vienna that I forged a partner with for last 5-6 years. It's an
Mind
online
Meister.
website. MindMeister. MindMeister. It's a very, very powerful tool. It's the best online platform that I've learned about over the last 14, 15 years of mind mapping, because inside of that mind map, you can start it there, but you can add attachments to it, PDFs, Word docs, links to other websites, videos from YouTube, all embedded within this mind map. Also, you can collaborate with other people in it. That's what I do with a lot of my clients that I'm helping with. We get on MindMeister and we actually build a mind map collaboratively together, so I can support them in coaching and what they're trying to brainstorm or sort out. So I'm more of an online dude where I use the MindMeister for that. And for any of your listeners, MindMeister is the best one. And please try it. If you go there, you can use that Dig It discount code. It's just a really you get some kind of discount for it. It's only like $6 a month or something, but it's a small discount. But I really like to promote the code because I'm one of the biggest partners that MindMeister has in the US. And I want to stay that way because all of the
Yeah.
new enhancements that they bring out, they, get me first access to it. So
And what's that code again?
it's Digit, Diggit.
Dig
And
it.
yeah, so and again, it's more just for that tracking purposes, so I can keep leading this promotion in there. It's been big. It's growing in the U.S. Tony Buzan, just quickly, this English educator by the name of Tony Buzan in the 50s and 60s was supporting his students, trying to find better ways for them to learn. He started researching the notes of Da Vinci and Edison and Einstein and all of these guys, and realized that they were using more visual keywords and symbols in all of their notes that he reviewed, which he created this mind mapping process, wrote a lot of books in the 70s and 80s and 90s, and doing pretty well with the promotion primarily in Europe. He unfortunately passed away in 2018 before he can, really try to do that kind of impact, life changing impact in the US. That's why I think it hasn't really taken off so much in our school systems and our corporations and our just normal practices, word mind mapping. And I'm hopeful to, be a mentor and a catalyst in that to get people to really harness the power of mind mapping. It's
Yeah.
truly big.
It's amazing. So how do we think bigger, right? I mean, I think that's critical in today's world for any of us, right? But
Mhm.
maybe for somebody that doesn't historically think big, what advice do you have, and how have you been able to think big and take it to the next level?
Right. Good. Great question. Great question. Because in my, I think the best way to answer that is in my TEDx talk. Naturally, I talk about this big ass box, right?
Yeah.
And that whole process that led that story that I just shared. But I wrote a book shortly after that called "What's in Your Big Ass Box," because I realized that most people may not literally have that physical big ass box that I had, but they do have a big ass brain that can use
Yeah.
that mind mapping for sorting. So I wrote a book on that. And it not only helps people think outside of the box, but it helps them live outside of the box when you practice mind mapping. Because when you go to map out whatever it is you're considering, it's amazing the creativity, that the ideas that start to flow in your mind as you're brainstorming a specific topic or subtopic on the mind map, which causes you to think big, which causes you to not have limits, in your thought processing. And it enables you to start really thinking about, wait a minute, it's on my map. How can I actually achieve this? It's not too big for me to achieve, because now the mind mapping has showed me the roadmap if I want to accomplish whatever I'm trying to do or solve whatever problem I'm trying to do. So mind mapping has really been enabling me to think big, because it's no longer something out there. I know with mind mapping, if there's anything I want to do, I can put it there and actually brainstorm all of the who, what's, where, whys, and hows of whatever grandiose idea I may be thinking about. But then I can break it down all the way to monthly, weekly, daily, hourly action steps on what I need to do to follow that mind mapping path to achieve that goal. So that really helps me think big, because having it on a visual tool, which it sounds like you've been doing, having it on a visual tool, you don't really have those limits, those limiting beliefs or those limiting thought processing, when you're normally trying to think of something here or in a linear fashion. When you actually are mapping it out, it really kind of opens you up that all things are literally possible, so it causes me to think big, a lot bigger than mind mapping. That
And I
answer
think
that for you?
that's where the circuit of success comes in. Because we talk about attitude, your actions, your beliefs, or I'm sorry, your attitude, your beliefs, your actions get you the results that you want to get. And I think that we can sit there and think big all day long, but if I don't do anything with it, I don't take action. It doesn't matter, right? How big I think. But so for you, how about belief and action? When you hear those two words, what comes into mind for you?
Well, belief is everything. And that's where I really promote and coach people around my I am mind map. Because regardless of whatever it is you're trying to achieve with yourself, if your identity is not in alignment, with whatever that is you're trying to do, you're going to have serious challenges of achieving that goal and maybe not even get there. So I start with that I am mind map to really work with my beliefs of who I am. Who am I in as it relates to being healthy mentally, spiritually, physically, wealthy, not just with finances, but the abundance of emotions I want to feel, the abundance of skill I want to have, successful relationships, results, and rewards. These things is when I really get down to my belief system on who I am. Then once I get clear on that, and I've been coaching people around that, it's amazing on how some of their goals or some of their ideas may even shift, because they realize, wait a minute, that was a great idea, but that's not really in alignment with who I am or who I intend to be in the world. So maybe I should shift this goal, which naturally increases the likelihood of achieving the goal, because it's more in alignment with who you are identifying yourself to be or who you intend to be with the world. So that's how I see how the beliefs work. And once you really get empowered with who you are, and this is what I've been doing a lot with students lately, student athletes I've been working a lot with, is helping them get clear on who they are, so their actions start being more in alignment with who they are, and gives them that boundaries, or gives them that personal power to withstand a lot of peer pressure, a lot of that societal, influence. Now it's like, wait a minute, that doesn't work with me, because that's not on my I am mind map. That's not who I am or who I'm defining myself to be. So it's easier that I'm finding with a lot of student athletes now to say no to drugs, say no to a lot of that kind of stuff, because it's like, wait a minute, I'm clear on who I am and who I intend to be now, versus kind of gray, and not really certain of who I am, with that personal core beliefs and values. And it's funny, man, I find a lot of adults, that never really took the time to identify, who are you in this world?
Right.
So who are you and what are you trying to do, with your life? And, and I've been working with a lot of people that way, and they're having major breakthroughs in understanding that the reason they haven't been achieving the goals or having the success they want is because they haven't clarified who they are to do it, to live their dreams.
Well, it's that clarity I was talking about earlier. Clarity precedes mastery. Is most people don't slow down enough to think and dream and strategize. And you know who you are. I mean, you make decisions, right? We're all adults, so make decisions based out of our values. But how often are we reviewing those and seeing in your life, right, where are those people in my life, and where do I get energy, and where do I get energy sucked from me, right? Because I'm not in alignment with whatever that is. So the more we can be in alignment, I just say no to everything else. If it's not in alignment with my values, I'm out. I'm not doing it.
I've been finding that people find it most powerful to have an I am mind map when they're dealing with an unexpected challenge. When a divorce, a death, career change or something that's causing them to question who I am. Wait a minute, my life just got shook.
Yeah.
What happened? What do I do now? And those of us that have created that I am mind map, it's easier to go back and practice it and look at it to help you resolve that challenge or deal with it in a much more efficient and effective way than just trying to just hope time heals thing kind of deal.
Right. Absolutely. So if I followed you around, what are the habits that I'm going to see every single day without fail that John Diggs does?
Morning meditation. I do my I am meditation every morning. That's without fail. Do that. And from there, do my workout in. I'm a morning workout kind of person. I think it's, the days that I don't get a chance to work out, it's not that I have bad days, but it seems like they slug, they trudge.
Right.
It's kind of a slower activity, kind of a day for me. So I every morning I'm doing some kind of cardio in my gym, Peloton mostly, or something to that effect. But throughout that, I'm on my mind maps and figuring out what is the one thing I should be doing at the right time, like right now. So I'm constantly reviewing my maps. And MindMeister, by the way, has an additional a bundle product that's connected to my mind map called Meister Task, to where once they use it as MindMeister, the mind map, you get clear on everything that you want to do, but you can also have a lot of those activities connect to Meister Task. And Meister Task is more of a task project management thing with Scrum boards and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm all onto that to make sure I'm finishing my day, satisfied that I was effective, efficient, productive, with all of the things that, I determine that need to happen for me to keep moving the ball down the field, if you will, every day.
Right. So speaking of the ball down the field, talk to us about some of the football stuff, man. What were some of those highlights, and what was the best part about playing in the NFL, and maybe who some of the players you played with were?
It's so funny you say that, because I just literally, before we got on this call, a Facebook memory came up of me of a 72-yard interception that I had in my senior year of college against UCLA. And this stood out for me, not just for the play, but I tell everybody the story that led up to that play, which a couple of years before that, we had just won the Aloha Bowl with Dennis Erickson, best year of my life. But there was this little small, I want to say she was Tennessee Southern twang girl that came and talked to our team. About sports psychology. She was going to be on campus. Her office was here. Anybody wanted to come see her, they could. And I believe I was the only one that went to see this lady. But she asked me something that nobody's ever asked me before in my life, and she was like, John, what is the best play you can make as a football player? And all of the years that I played up in the there, Pop Warner in high school and stuff, I never thought about what would be the biggest play I can make. Right. And she said, John, let's spend some time, write it out. So I wrote it out and brought it to her. She said, no, I need a lot more descriptions, more adjectives, more adverbs. Take your time. Wow. So I spent a few weeks doing it. Then she told me, she like, all right, this is good. She said, go ahead and relax. Lay down, lay on your back, take some deep breaths, relax. She said, I'm going to record this, but I'm going to read what you wrote to you. I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
And then after that, she said, all right.
I can see where this is going.
Yeah, I want you to just listen to it every night and let's just see what happens. And that was the play that happened. It was like,
is that amazing?
Oh, man, it's still emotional to me now, because that was literally the play that happened. And that was my first introduction to the power of mind mapping. And this is what I share with student athletes now, is that you can visualize what it is you want to experience in your future. You have to get clear with that. And I show them how to mind map that to get very crystal clear on the details of whatever their big play is. And I'm doing the same thing that lady told me. It's like, look, let's record it. Just listen to it. let's see what happens, kind of deal. So a
Yeah.
lot of them are
Yeah.
young now, so we'll see what happens. But that was a big deal for me. And, the NFL and CFL I played in, those as a child wasn't my dream. My dream
Yeah.
was college football. And I think it goes back to my dad as a kid. He took me to, I think it was a Cleveland Brown game. And it was like 1 o'clock during the day. It was hot. It was boring. There was no scores. And I was just like, really, Dad? But then like 2 weeks later, I went to a USC UCLA game. Band is playing.
Yeah,
Everything
going
is rah rah
crazy.
crazy. I was like, that's what I want. I want to play football in college, not the pros. So, when I got to the pros, it was more like kind of, when practice became work, it was
Yeah.
kind of like all the politics that went with it. I got to my goal, but I was like, hey, I'm here now. Let me make some money. Made a lot of great people, a lot of great friends to this day, great experiences, with football. I'm truly blessed, for those opportunities and relationships that I still have to this day with folks that came by way of football for sure.
Yeah. Well, I love the fact of what you wrote down. It made me think about when I was a new financial advisor, 23, 24 years old. Back then we didn't have iPhones yet. And so I would record on like a, old recorder. I would record those types of things, my goals, my dreams, and listen to those. And then I would also record myself going to a meeting and like, what was I going to say to that client? And I'd say what I thought I'd say, and I'd listen to it while I was driving, and then I'd be like, oh, that sounds terrible. Redo that,
Right.
And so it's like you want to learn, right, and get better. And I think the power of writing things down for me is massive, critically important. I think for people's success is to write it down, visualize it, put a plan together, go make it happen. So,
Right.
where do our listeners find more of John Diggs? You've got your, I know you got books, you've got a website. I think you even made a website for people on the show here.
Yes, I do. JohnDiggs.com is there. I do have an online community. Well, before I say that, as you just mentioned, I do have something specifically for your users at johndiggs.com / the circuit of success, which
Awesome.
is strictly for your listeners. It talks more about the IM stuff, that if they're interested in, there's several different things that they can do if they want to proceed forward. We're learning how to develop their own IM mind map. What I'm really most excited about is Mappineerville.com. That is my online community of people from around the world. I have some people. It was surprising. I just saw from a person from Budapest. It's actually in our community, and it's just a community of like-minded people that just really want to support people to love their life more by way of helping them get clear with things by using mind mapping. Mind mapping is the pure platform, but we have exercises, challenges, quizzes, polls, all of the things to have an active, thriving community. That's what Mappineerville.com is. But the central platform is just getting people more accustomed and comfortable with mind mapping life events, life situations. You have a problem, that you got a group of people that can help you on that same mind map, help you find the best solution to whatever you're dealing with. So it's been really exciting at Mappineerville.com. We call it the Ville for short. It's kind of cool.
Well, we'll have people go to the Ville and check that out. But, man, it's been awesome having you on the Circuit of Success, John. Really appreciate your time and sharing your stories and your wisdom, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me, Brett. God bless you and good luck, man, with everything.
Thank you.